Wrongful dismissal, tortious interference with contracts, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. You can't spell Better Call Saul without CBS. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber. Alright, I'm sure you have all been following the news, but if you have not, a brief summary. Last week, an undercover news agency called Project Veritas released some leaked tapes of an ABC reporter, Amy Robach, apparently on a hot mic talking about the Epstein story. Now, a first parenthesis, which is somewhat of an immaterial parenthesis in that it doesn't really have an impact on the substance of the story, there is some discussion or disagreement as to whether or not Amy Robach was caught on a hot mic or was just talking openly, knowing that she was being recorded and knowing that anybody could see what she was saying. But the bottom line is the same, and that is that 3 years ago, Amy Robach had the Epstein story. She had all the information, she had conducted the interview, she had the story, and it was ready to break. But ABC spiked it, meaning they didn't air it for reasons that obviously upset Amy Robach. And on the leaked audio, you can hear Amy Robach talking for upwards of 7 minutes, explaining in great detail what she had in her possession and why it was that ABC refused to air it, and her frustration with that decision. That footage was leaked to Project Veritas, who aired it just about a week ago,
and it set the internet ablaze.
It started trending, related hashtags started trending, and people basically got the confirmation that everyone had already suspected, that you can't really trust ABC to put out good news. And after the story started trending, ABC put out a sort of explanation that they didn't run the story because it didn't meet ABC's journalistic standards. And one of the more popular and poignant memes that surfaced and got very popular was a compilation of the stories that ABC ran over the last 3 years that allegedly met their journalistic standards, and the frivolity of the information that supported those stories compared to the Epstein story, which didn't meet their journalistic standards, compared to the underlying evidence that supported that story. So to put it mildly, this is a massively embarrassing and severely discrediting story that just came out to show that ABC can't really be trusted to put out accurate, good news. Or at the very least that ABC can't be trusted to put out the big stories because of conflict of interest. One of the reasons Amy Robach said that ABC spiked the story is that it was apparently going to get in the way of them getting an interview with Kate and Will because of certain alleged connections to the royal family that were apparently confirmed in the interview that Amy Robach was not allowed to air on ABC. Regardless, I don't need to get into those details. You can go look it up for yourself, but let's get into the law part of this. So what ends up happening? About a week after the story was aired, someone at CBS gets fired for allegedly being the ABC leaker. Now, the person who gets fired from CBS is immediately branded as the leaker, even though it comes out in the days following that she wasn't even fired for having leaked the video. She was fired for having saved a clip internally at ABC, but we're going to get into that. What's important to retain for now is that this person was immediately and probably permanently branded as the leaker of the video of Amy Robach complaining that she had the Epstein story, confirming everything 3 years ago, but she wasn't allowed to break it because of ABC. And who is this notoriously evil, untrustworthy, disloyal leaker that leaked the ABC audio? A 25-year-old woman named Ashley Bianco. An entire life ahead of her in an industry which has probably been destroyed now as a result of being fired over allegations of being a leaker of the hot mic recording of Amy Robach, which has effectively destroyed any credibility ABC ever had left on the MSM forefront. And it's not just that Ashley Bianco is young and had her whole future ahead of her in the industry. She is also extremely accomplished. From what I've been able to read, Ashley Bianco is apparently a 2-time Emmy Award-winning producer. So this is a young, accomplished, aspiring person working in the industry who has basically had her entire future destroyed because of ABC calling CBS to tell them that she was the leaker so that CBS fires her. Oh, incidentally, I forgot to mention, a lot of you might be asking why ABC called CBS to have Ashley Bianco fired if Ashley Bianco was the leaker at ABC. Apparently, Ashley Bianco had just moved to CBS 4 days before being fired. Prior to going to CBS, Ashley Bianco had had a successful career at ABC. Apparently, she was a good employee with no prior stains on her record. She moved to CBS. ABC determines, and we'll get into it, that she was the leaker, or at the very least had access to the video, calls CBS, and CBS fires her after 4 days of employment. That is the factual backdrop, at least as of today. Things might change in the future, and in which case, don't hold this video to information that comes out after this video. I can't change this video after I've made it. And listening to this story, all I can think of are the 3 things I listed at the beginning: wrongful termination, tortious interference with contracts, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Let's just start with CBS firing Ashley Bianco over something she is alleged to have done at ABC. I have done employment law, but I've only done employment law in Quebec. And Quebec is, if not arguably definitively, a more pro-employee judicial system than pro-employer. We have specific tribunals that deal with employee-employer relationships, and by and large, the tribunals are more forgiving and more lenient on the employees than they are on the employers who want to exercise the ultimate sanction of termination of employment for alleged wrongdoing. So So bear that in mind as my framework for approaching this, but I still think that what I'm saying is probably going to be true in all jurisdictions. Termination of employment is the ultimate sanction, and it is true, typically speaking, that an employer doesn't have to keep on an employee that the employer doesn't want anymore, which is why you have two types of termination. You have termination with cause and termination without cause. And when it comes to termination without cause, where the employer says, I just don't want this employee here anymore, I have no good reason to fire them, I just don't want to employ them anymore, the employer has to provide them with certain compensation by virtue of the fact that they are terminating their employment without sufficient cause. The quantum of that compensation for termination without cause is entirely contextually dependent. It'll depend on the employee's salary. It'll depend on how long the employee has been working there. It'll depend on how specialized the job was and how easy it will be for the employee to find another job. It'll depend on what sacrifice the employee may have made in order to take that job. If they moved to northern Canada to take the job and then the person says, I don't want you here anymore, well, you might have to offer them more in terms of compensation than if they say live up the street. Termination with cause, however, means that you are firing the employee because they've done something wrong. Typically, in that case, the employer doesn't need to offer compensation because it's the employee's fault that they are getting fired. But at least in Quebec, firing an employee is referred to as the ultimate sanction. It's not the first recourse. And an employer has to set out certain gradations of sanctions. An employer has to have a specified code of conduct so the employees know what they can and cannot do. So they know what the sanctions are if they make certain mistakes. An employer can't fire an employee for cause because they showed up once 5 minutes late for work. However, systematic tardiness can be a basis for termination with cause. Ashley Bianco was terminated presumably for cause 4 days after starting her employment that she left ABC to take. If it wasn't at ABC's specific request, it was certainly at their nudge, ABC calling CBS and saying,
Hey, you just hired a leaker from our office, maybe you want to do something about it.
And Ashley Bianco was on Megyn Kelly's show, and she explained what she says she did, and she says that she's not the leaker, that she didn't leak the video, but that she did watch the video internally, as did everyone else at ABC, that she did save something of a clip, but only on the internal systems of ABC. And then the plot thickens. ABC says, okay, she might not be the leaker, but at the very least, she is the one who saved a clip of this video internally, and that is presumably a problem, so we notified CBS, and CBS fired her. I don't know the context under which Ashley left ABC, but if you presume that Ashley left ABC voluntarily, she left a good job at ABC to go to CBS, knowing that after she makes that decision, she can't exactly go back to ABC. ABC now calls CBS, and CBS fires Ashley after having made this decision after a mere 4 days of employment, allegedly for cause. Ashley is the physical embodiment of what we often refer to as up a creek without a paddle. She left ABC, she's fired from CBS, and she's fired in such a way that basically makes her unemployable in the industry. Can that serve as the basis for a wrongful dismissal suit against CBS?
Abso-friggin-lutely.
And in its defense, CBS might have certain defenses, like fraudulent misrepresentations during the hiring process. Had Ashley disclosed that, and had CBS known that, they never would have hired her. But bearing in mind that apparently Ashley had never been disciplined at ABC, she is now confirmed not to be the leaker, but only to have been someone who accessed the video and saved a clip of it only internally at ABC. Ashley is being terminated by her new employer for a wrong that she was never confirmed to have done at her former employer.
At her former employer's request.
So yes, there is a good case for wrongful dismissal, and I guarantee you that Ashley is lawyering up, and lawyering up hard right now. And I would argue that there's even more to this: intentional infliction of emotional distress by CBS. CBS, in firing Ashley the way they did, basically made her the poster child of the Epstein leaks. The manner in which they did it was rash, brazen, and extremely public. They put Ashley's face as the blame bullseye for how it is that ABC got called out on their failure to report. In doing what they did in the way they did it, they made Ashley Bianco a 25-year-old person with the rest of her life ahead of her, a 2-time Emmy Award-winning producer, public enemy number 1 in the industry. That goes light years above and beyond merely getting fired. That is making you an example for everyone else in the industry. That is the intentional infliction of immeasurable emotional distress. And while she is lawyering up, I have no doubt that her lawyer is going to say,
ABC, come here for a second, we have something to say to you.
What business did you have calling up CBS to tell them what you did? Have you ever heard of something called tortious interference with contracts? Tortious interference with contracts or business relations is a common law tort. And what it basically means is that a third party is unlawfully and without any color of right interfering in the contractual relationship between two other parties. And we've discussed this in previous vlogs, specifically the Oberlin situation, where Oberlin University was tortiously interfering with the bakery's relationship with third parties. Oberlin and its employees tortiously interfering with third parties, encouraging them not to shop at Gibson's Bakery because Gibson's Bakery was allegedly racist.
And they got the judicial smackdown for that tortious business interference.
In this particular case, you have ABC calling up CBS saying, "Oh, I heard you just hired this Ashley Bianco.
You have a contract between the two of of you.
We think she did something wrong at ABC, just thought you should know that. I'm not telling you what to do.
Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes, I do expect to see ABC at the receiving end of a lawsuit for tortious interference with contracts instituted by Ashley Bianco. And if I am Ashley's attorney in this file, which I am not and will not be, I am arguing that this is not a question of termination of employment. This is a question of the most abusive, shameful, and devastating termination of employment, not to terminate the employment, but to set an example for others. And with that, if you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you know when I post new videos. Drop a comment in the comment section, let me know what you think. If you want some merch, I got a ton of merch and it really helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And there's a PayPal support link up in the banner of my channel, and I'll post it in the comment section below. Before I sign off, I'm going to say something I said in the past, and I'm going to say it again in the future. More important than strong contracts are strong business relationships. Better than a 100-page contract that is drafted by the smartest and most expensive lawyers in the world is knowing and trusting who you are doing business with. And with that, now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah!